Morning, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the art of smart reading habits. So we all know that reading is a really good thing to do. So reading is the foundation of education. Anything you want to learn is in a book somewhere. So it makes sense to read as often as you can. I read every morning as part of my morning routine, and so should you. In terms of getting into reading, someone that I found an inspirational source that made me start reading a lot more was Neville Ravikant. I listened to a podcast of his and he said, learn to love to read. First, read things that are easy, just so you can get in the flow and the love of reading. So you read things that are not taxing on the brain, just so you can, for enjoyment, before you read the things that you should read. So you've got to kind of learn to love to read. And then when you do that, you get in the habit, you can start reading all the things, the difficult books that you've been putting off because they look scary. In terms of smart reading habits, the first step I would do is decide what your reading goals are. Why are you reading? And if you're reading, say, just generally reading, just for fun, or you might be reading for gist, then in that regard, you can just skim read it. And I've got a couple of techniques coming through where when you skim reading, I don't mean you're trying to brush over it. I mean, when you're reading for gist, you never go backwards, because if you didn't quite read something correctly, we all get in this, I don't know if you ever get in this habit of, oh, just read that again and try and let it sink in. And if you keep going back over it, and it'll take you forever to finish a book. So you need to decide, if you're just reading for fun, just read. And if it hasn't sunk in, just carry on. And you can always use that technique if you want to read more seriously, because the second type of reading is where you must read it for some reason, whether that's you want to learn something, whether that's through force with your job, you've got to read something, say, for study, or maybe for your work, or for education. In them cases, you might decide to first have a quick pass, just read it like it's a book for fun, let it sink in, and then go back over it and read it again more seriously. So if your goal is to, like I say, read for fun, just read it and don't worry and never go back. Just get through it. And don't worry too much whether it sinks in. If you need it for a more serious reason, if you're reading for a more serious reason, let's say you need to study something, or you might need to learn a new skill, you take it more seriously, it's going to take you longer to read, and that's fine. And what I do, I'll show you some examples of my reading. So this is a book, Thinking Fast and Slow, that I have read and read and read and spent a long time studying this book, right? And when I really study a book like this, if you have a look, put all these little notes in, create an index of page numbers and a summary. And then if you go to, like, this is page 24, so if you go to like page 24 there, you can see little highlights and underlines. And so I create this little index, and it does take a while to go through, but the reason why I do this is because this goes on my shelves on my library. Have you ever have a thought and I think, oh, I've read that somewhere? Just pick up the book, go in the inside cover, scroll down, look at the relevant highlight, find it, saves me having to read the book again. This technique of highlighting and creating an index in the front, this one's an extreme book. This is when you really need to study a book and you really need it to sink in. Just by underlining it and putting these little notes in, subconsciously, it's like baking it into your brain. It really goes in. So this will take you twice as long to read the book. Well, 1.5 to 2 times as long to read the book if you were just reading it for fun, because you're really studying it. But I do this on the serious books. This is a fabulous book that I found. There was so much in. If you're into psychology and the way the brain works, this is one of the best. And that's why I first read this for gist. So I just read it back to back, and then I went back over it and studied it. And you'll see it looks like it's seen better days, that's because I have absolutely been through this book a lot. There's even notes in the back. Another example, this book, Peak 40, looks brand new. Look, not a mark on it. There's no like bending of the pages. I read this one for gist really quickly, and it was an easy read, to be honest. I have got a few underlines, as you can see, but it's not battered. Just one page of note, well, a couple of pages of notes, but it's not battered just because I read this very quick, because it was an easy reading book. A couple of skills on reading. If you're thinking about speed skills, the first one is to take a piece of paper. I've got a scrappy bookmark here as you're reading, and this is quite an old technique. Just start from the top. Instead of covering underneath and going down like this, what you do is you go from the top and you read down and you keep moving down over the line that you're reading. And the reason why you do this is because it makes you focus on the line. Everyone thinks going underneath will make you focus. It will. But the problem with putting your paper or card underneath, you ideally want a clean piece of card, not this we're writing on. If you go underneath it, your eye has a tendency to wander up when you start reading back over things you've already read. So the idea for speed is once you've read it, that's it, it's gone. So you just keep going, and you can go at a consistent speed like this and just get down the pages. So it's a really good technique just by covering up what you've already read so your mind doesn't wander back up. The second speed reading technique is to indent the sides. So imagine you've got the two sides of the page here, the margins, and let's say you're going to move in 1 or 2 words about an inch each side, or 25 millimeters, 1 inch each side, a couple of words. And imagine you draw a line down the page, a couple of words in, and you're just going to read the middle bit. So you could, draw some lines there, but just try and imagine indenting in a couple of words and just going down the page and reading the middle bit, and you'll read it really fast. And if you want, if you can start just moving those lines in a bit by bit to the point where you're just super speed reading the page. Now, I would only ever do that if it was something you were reading for gist. If it's a more serious book, you want to actually read it. And some would say, some don't agree with any of these speed reading techniques. I'm just giving them to you because they are tools. Certain cases where you just want to read it really fast, and you don't really want to consume the book, or let's say you're just reading it for gist and then you do intend to go over it properly later, or you've got a time constraint. These are just techniques. But a lot of people would say, if you really want to spend the time reading, you shouldn't be doing any of those techniques. And I agree with that. I like to treat all my books as much as I can. Certainly the important books, like I have done with this one, where I've really, really intensely read it, understood it, took notes out. The other thing that I've got, I always have a notebook with me where I write notes and little things, and when I read books, I take little ideas out and write notes for videos or little educational pieces, whatever I'm doing in one of my projects. And the reason why I do all this is because I actually use the stuff that I read in books in real life. So the lessons I learn in books, I apply them, and that's the difference between being a theologian who just reads books and a practitioner who then takes the knowledge that they read in books and puts it into practice. So in terms of smart reading habits, the most smartest reading habit to finish this video, I would say, is the things that you learn in books. If you have a technique like this where you're going to create an index of the key items of the book, you need to internalize these lessons in your everyday life. And that's why adding reading as part of your morning routine where you're doing your plans and your journaling is a good practice, because at that point, the smart things to do is to apply this stuff in your daily rituals, routines and habits. Apply it in everyday life. Alright, hope that was useful. Don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you all next time.